careful, please. That elite was an ultra.
Saw some people arguing on Twitter the other day about the murals at the temple being destroyed. One said, this is tragic, this is horrible, and this is why the church is all stupid and bad, and I hate it. Not the best attitude to have. And the other person said, you just hate everything. That's the price that you have to pay to be able to endow 6,500 people an hour, 65,000 people a second, That's the cost of efficiency. And this is a bad attitude to have as well. I don't think efficiency is something that God cares about. I think it goes all the way back to the beginning. Satan said, I will save them all. And Jesus said, I'll save the ones you like. So God does not care much about efficiency. Because Satan's plan, provided it was a real plan and not a lie, which I would argue that it's simply a lie, a false hope, but provided there is a plan that saves everyone, God's not interested, okay? Not interested in efficiency. He likes to talk about vineyards and olive trees and all sorts of things that are very slow growing, mustard seeds. This is how he likes to talk. Jesus lived for 30 years before he began his ministry. So yeah, we don't live in the gospel of efficiency land. It just reminds me of, the cereal, the Captain Crunch berries. There's the meme, oops, all berries. Disgusting, okay? You need to have the little yellow pillows that, like stuffing your mouth with razor blades, will really just open your pores so that they can accept the fruity colors and perfumes and chemical perfumes of the berries. It's just, it's just so good with the red 40 and all these different chemical cancer-causing dyes or whatever can just seep into the cuts in your mouth like you've got a big wad of chewing tobacco in your lip. Emma Smith, she didn't want guys chewing tobacco in her house, but how would she have reacted to a group of the apostles of the Lord getting together to eat oops all berries cereal? I think we'd have a very different word of wisdom were that the case. But anyway, so oops all Jesus. Is that the gospel that we want? I think that gospel already exists. It's the gospel of sola faith, sola gratia, sola scriptura. This is the minimalist gospel. If it was all about efficiency, cranking out as many endowments per second as possible, why can't we vicariously baptize for more than one person? Paul talks about how they had an altar to the unknown God. It's an altar just for any other gods that we missed, just this is the one. Why can't we just do that for all the records of all the people who don't exist? Just dunk them all at once. We can say, we used to do vicarious baptisms individually, but now we're going to baptize en masse symbolically. Because surely Christ visited the multitude one by one, but he also visited the multitude, so it can be symbolic that it was one by one. We'll just do the multitude. This is just silly, I know that the church is a corporation, and it does kind of run like a business, and this is probably one of the biggest problems with it. This is not really anyone's fault, so much as it is just the reality that the church is couched in the American corporate culture, which is not good. These super corporate mega billionaires, they make Solomon and David and King Noah look like saints in terms of human rights abuses against their people, okay? The disparity is just enormous. Oh, well, you can take a hot shower, and King David, he didn't have an iPad. You live like a king. The discrepancies between the poor and the rich now are greater than they've ever been. And sure, things have gotten good for a lot of people. I think the fact that the world is richer now actually makes us more guilty, because doing something like creating a society, a Christian society where there are no poor among them, is far more achievable in today's world than it ever was in the past. And yet, it seems that we are failing worser. So yeah, I suggest that to encourage efficiency, I had a few ideas here. Mass vicarious baptisms was one. Drive-through temples was another. I think that serving the sacrament in a to-go bag would be ideal. It would be very convenient. I think that the Book of Mormon has a lot of, and it came to passes, and it quotes the Bible a lot, and it's very redundant, so we could just remove all that. After that, there's not really much Book of Mormon anyway. At least that's what its critics would have you believe. So let's just get rid of the whole thing. So this is just not a healthy mentality, okay? When I think of the idea of efficiency, I think that Captain Crunch literally is the metaphor, because it is like a ultra refined food. And in America, we're all dying because of refined foods. Now, there's a zillion health gurus online who will tell you what foods are bad, what foods are good, and all this diet science stuff is, I don't know. I'm skeptical of it all. I think that most people's diet problems are simply problems of excess. They're simply eating too much. And people can choose any diet from among many, as long as it's one they can stick to. They seem to lose weight. It doesn't matter if they're vegan or keto or carnivore or simply just eating one Oreo a day. It seems like they lose weight. I don't know much about all these different religions. You gotta do naked yoga and sun your solar plexus or something so that the energy can get into the soles of your feet and really just change your metabolism. You know, it's just like this strange stuff, okay? Really, the problem is excess, and I think the problem is that we're separating things in our diet. You know, I heard it explained like this once, that sugarcane is an extremely fibrous plant. And every plant that is very sugary is very fibrous. And one of the problems with all the diabetes and stuff is that we are separating the sugar from the fiber. This is the idea of processed food. So whole foods, you know, you eat the whole food, you get all the stuff you need, it's probably better for you. It's certainly better for you to eat, you know, a sugar beet or something rather than to eat a pound of sugar. People go on and on about high fructose corn syrup. And I don't really think there's good sugar or bad sugar. I don't think that sugar is bad for you. I mean, why is high fructose corn syrup cheap? It's because it's made in America, and Mexican sugar is tariffed. Like the sugarcane sugar doesn't come from America. So if I was a guy who owned a sugarcane company or any of these other sugars, I would be telling people that it's magical. It's going to cure your cancer if you eat my sugar. That American corn sugar it's going to kill you, but my sugar, it's different. You know, and this is silly, okay? Sugar is sugar. I think that if we were putting honey into the bread and the hot dogs and the syrup, you know, I'm going to eat my honey dog with honey inside it and honey on top of it and honey in the bun, and then I'm going to top it off with a nice drink full of honey. You know, I think that it would be clear that honey is killing us. You know, try and tell me that honey is a healthy sugar. It's healthy because it's expensive, and so you can't eat it as much, you know? So give me a break. And this comes back to the gospel, that I think that when we try and refine the gospel, minimize the gospel, it can cause a sort of spiritual obesity, a spiritual lethargy. Diabetes will even make you blind. And I think this is what happens when you try and refine the gospel and try and only get the good stuff and leave out all that icky, sticky fibers, right? The harder to chew, harder to swallow stuff. We just got to get rid of that. And this is a problem, okay? We need the whole gospel. All of it is important. We need to live all of it. We need to understand the hard parts, and we need to understand the good parts, because it is a comprehensive thing, and you can't just condense it down into love. Here's a church of efficiency. We just go, we stand on an altar, and we say the words love 6 million times or something like that. And that's all we need to do. We just say love, 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 love. Instead of highlighting God's name in yellow every time you see it, how about you just black out everything that doesn't say God or love? And, you know, you've got a much more efficient scripture. But the sweetness of the gospel, this mercy, love stuff, it's going to make you sick. And so we just got to think of the gospel as something that comes in its entirety. And it is something that changes over time, but not in the way that we seem to have been led to believe. I think that if the word of wisdom was created today, there would be no more monsters. There would be no more Mountain Dew parties. Maybe your 40 zillion megabytes of caffeine injected into your eyeballs for your pre-workout is not a good idea. Maybe that's a little hard on your heart. I'm just throwing it out there. If you're having a caffeine run every single morning with your coworkers like a bunch of schoolgirls, maybe you're missing the entire point. one of the best parts of the word of wisdom is the cultural isolation that it induces. That's almost one of the most important parts. It says not to drink alcohol unless it's of your own make, Because if we're going to be getting drunk, we should at least not be siphoning wealth away from the community. You can be an alcoholic, but if you give money to Babylon, now that's the real problem. It's Gentile culture, okay? And I think that swig and all this stuff, just the endless amounts of sugar, we have made bigger and bigger cookies. A bigger cookie is more efficient because there's more cookie per cookie. But it's disgusting, okay? Crumble, I'm looking at you. I so swear I will never accept a Crumble sponsor. Worst cookie ever. Worst cookie ever. Okay? Cookies are meant to be a particular size so that you can make them into a ball. I try to teach someone how to make cookies on my mission in one of these foreign countries, and they were shocked that you were supposed to make the cookie as a ball rather than as like a hamburger patty, because with the ball in the hot oven, the outside becomes crispy and the inside gets underdone. And this is the cookiness of the cookie. But when you're making giant cookies the size of double quarter pounders from Hamburger Town, it's disgusting. It's a perversion. It's a perversion of the true nature of the cookie, because the cookie needs the crispy outside and it needs the gooey inside, one without the other, and you've lost the cookiness of the cookie. And you can't eat cookies with water. This is heresy. They have to be partaken of with milk. Milk that has fat in it, okay? None of this skim milk. We gotta go for the whole experience, okay? And anything less is not a cookie party. It's just like diabetic suicide, okay? We're going to drink soda with a cookie? Are you insane? Are you an insane person? This is the perfect allegory for the gospel. We need the whole gospel. We need the parts of it that make us uncomfortable. We need the parts of it that we think are awesome. And with all of this, it's going to stretch us and make us better, okay? So you got to put down the fork, okay? This is the new word of wisdom. We'll call it the word of smart. We'll call it put down the fork. You don't need more things, you need less things. You need to eat less. Any diet that helps you eat less is probably going to make you live longer, because humans, their bodies are not designed for prosperity. Not in this life, okay? So just eat a little bit less, suffer a little bit more. You need less things, you need to be less of a consumer, and you need to stop separating the sugar from the fiber in your life, You need periods of rest and periods of activity. Excessive activity or excessive rest, it's going to cause problems. So that's your message for today. Stop watering down the gospel. A message of just Jesus is not Christ's gospel. Christ wants to give you everything. He wants to teach you about the Father. He wants to teach you about himself. He wants to teach you about the prophets. He wants to teach you about how to organize yourself economically. He wants to teach you how to organize yourself spiritually, as a church, and as a political entity, as an individual, and as a group. He wants to do it all at once. He wants to give everything to those who would receive it. So don't settle for a corruption of the gospel. Go for the whole gospel, the original gospel. And if someone tries to pass off a hamburger patty of sugar dough served with sugar water, I don't care if it's corn syrup or honey. This is a perversion of the natural order of the gospel. So hope that is enlightening for you. Remember, we're not here to be efficient. We're here to do God's work in His glory in His way. If He was about efficiency, I think a day in Kolob would be 1,000 milliseconds and not 1,000 years. Why didn't He create the earth in one day? Well, I don't know. He must hate Jesus. He must not want to get with the program. That's all. Stop eating. Have a good one.